These days, it's anything but business as usual. That's why working together is more important than ever. AT&T is committed to keeping you connected so you can keep your patients cared for, your customers served, your students inspired, and your employees closer than ever. Our network is resilient. Our people are strong. Our job is to keep your business connected. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do.
Welcome to the Small Business University online, brought to you by Small Business Expo. We hope that everyone is staying safe and healthy during this time. Thank you to AT&T Business, who is our presenting sponsor. The webinar is being recorded and will be available on our channel within 24 hours. You will receive an email notification when the recording is available. If there are any questions for our presenter, you can post them in our public chat window during the session. Our presenter will get to them at the end. And now I'm thrilled to introduce today's webinar presentation with our presenter, Matthew Kennedy. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with you today at the Small Business Expo. Obviously, we would all rather be in person and meeting at a booth or in a webinar or in a presentation room face-to-face. But in today's current situation, we make do with what we have. And right now, that is going to be meeting across the internet, which is appropriate given the topic of my presentation today. I want to take a few minutes to dig into a topic that some people is going to believe is fairly rudimentary. And it is a basic premise. The idea of digital marketing in today's society is something that we often take for granted. But there are very simple yet profound mistakes that small businesses can make. And we have to realize these in order to avoid them and improve our digital marketing moving forward. And so today I want to take you through the digital journey. It's a way of describing what we do from a storytelling perspective, because if we get this wrong, if small businesses are not effectively marketing digitally to their customer, their client, their guest, whatever your target market may be, ultimately, you can be doing more damage to your business than simply not getting customers for yourself. You may indeed be sending people to your competition. But before we talk about the mistakes and the journey and ways to avoid them, we need to start a little bit more basic. We need to start at the beginning. We need to talk about the journey itself and the history. What got us to this point? What makes the digital journey so important? And ultimately, the digital journey, digital marketing, is for the same purpose that every other marketing program and every other marketing technique has been since the beginning of time. It is a sales journey. It is a sales process. And to understand the digital journey, we must first understand the sales process itself, because regardless of your small business and regardless of what it is that you sell, a service, a product, a platform, service, software as a service, whatever the case may be, you're ultimately selling something to someone somewhere. And so as we begin to talk about the sales process itself, the traditional buying model, the way sales has worked since the beginning, your customer, your client is going to have a moment of stimulus. There's going to be something in their life that brings them to need or want your product or service. It could be as profound as a major life change, a marriage, a child being born, a death in the family. It could be something as simple as it's Tuesday. If you're in a restaurant, you don't have to have a reason to go out to eat. Sometimes you just want to go out to eat. So there's a stimulus, something that brings them to want or need you. There will then be something that refers them to your business. In the best case scenario, it's a direct referral. It's someone who is either a customer or a client of yours that is going to bring them to your front door. It could also be something that influences them, whether it be marketing or advertising, some sort of traditional marketing concept, but we'll get into that here in a moment. That then brought them to the first moment of truth. And in business terms, this was the moment where they decided to give you their money. This was the moment where you had the opportunity face to face to sell someone on what it is that you did, how you fulfilled your promises, why you were doing it. Do they trust you with your service? Do they believe in the way that you're going to proceed from a business standpoint? All of that was able to be done face to face. And that could then be converted into the first moment of truth, the actual buying moment. And then the second moment of truth, after the purchase. Did their post-purchase expectations meet or exceed those they had before, their pre-purchase? And if so, do they love it? Do they hate it? Will they become an advocate for your business? So really the question then becomes, what changed? And it's a pretty simple concept. For those of you who are like me, I use Apple devices for everything that I use. If you are an Android user or a Windows user, you may not know this date, but June 29th, 2007, this came out. This is an original iPhone 1. It's very small. It's half the size of my current phone. It is not particularly powerful. It does not have a lot of memory capacity, but this little box changed the world. It was a date changed how people interact. Is still a moment of truth. There is still a second moment of truth. All of these things are still true, but what has changed? There is now something in the middle. There is a device, that smartphone, whether it's an Apple iPhone, an Android device, some other smartphone technology, a tablet, a computer. There is now something in the way. But it's a good thing because it's something that we can leverage for ourselves. And it's important that we do. There are a lot of studies out there that will back this information up. 93% of Americans have made an offline purchase using online resources. So even if they are going into your front door and making the purchase in your store, whether for a product or service, they researched it first online. More importantly, it used to be that we would only trust, information directly from a friend or a family member. Now, 83% of Americans in the United States will trust mobile online reviews as much as, if not more so, than direct recommendations from family and friends. The online review is what verifies whether or not they want to make their purchase. And it's not just being done in a computer. Like I said, a smartphone has taken the place of computer in many households. 96% of Americans over the age of 18 own some kind of cell phone. 81% own a smartphone. That's 4 out of 5. That is a vast majority of the American population. 63% of all Google searches, and bear in mind, Google searches, there's like billions of them every day. 63% originate from a smartphone. So people are using these mobile devices to research and verify their purchases before they ever get to your front door. And so this brings us to the first crucial mistake. And it's very simple. You cannot wait to tell your story on your terms. Ultimately, there are a lot of people, and this is going to sound crazy to some of us because we're holding this small business expo. We're doing this via the internet. We're meeting on a virtual site and having webinars and doing booth presentations face to face over the internet. But there are still small business owners that I've talked to every single week who don't have a Facebook page. They don't have a website. They have no digital presence. And yet they're still trying to market their business the same way that they've done 20 years ago. And they don't understand why they're not reaching people as much or as frequently as they did before. People in today's day and age want to consume content and information on their terms. You cannot digital market the way that you want to, because ultimately it's not about us. Ultimately, this is about the people that you're trying to reach. And public opinion currently holds that they want to consume content as they want to consume it, which is a challenge because there are a ton of different sites out there and a ton of different channels. We'll get back to that in a second. But by letting people consume content on their terms, it brings us to something that Google refers to as the zero moment of truth. Now, remember, the first moment of truth has everything to do with the moment that someone decides to make that purchase. The zero moment of truth is taking the place of the referral. It used to be that people would be referred to your business and you would have the opportunity to explain everything when they got there at the first moment. Now it's taking place on the smart device. It's taking place on a digital journey at the zero moment of truth. People now know more about your business before they ever meet you than they ever have before. So the question is, do you stand out where people are making the ultimate decision to buy? Do you stand out at the zero moment of truth? 93% of consumers use online resources to make an offline decision. Digital is critical for your business's success. You have to stand out in this moment. And that brings us to the digital journey. So, as we've discussed what led us to this moment, what has led us to this period in time, we have to be careful because there is a second big mistake that can be made here. And it's a very simple one. People hate to be sold, but Americans love to buy. We're a consumer-driven society. We are driven by economic factors. We love possessions, but we hate having salespeople come up to us with a strong sales message and something that is obviously trying to pry our money away from us. I don't know about you, but I will have salespeople call me for different products or services, and it may be something that I need or want. But the message coming across being such a strong sales message turns me off. It makes it where I'm not interested, even if I need to be. But I want to buy. I want to spend my money and I want to get the things that I want and need in life. So what's the difference? The difference is we're not providing a sales pitch. As we go through the digital journey, you need to remember, tell your story, not a sales pitch. And most especially, as the wonderful writer and speaker Simon Sinek has said, tell your why. People want to engage with people. People want to engage with brands that tell a story that matches their expectations. As they're going on this digital journey, they're ultimately trying to answer 6 basic questions. Do they know about you? Can they find you? Do they trust you? Do they like you? Do you offer what they need? And will they return and advocate for you? That's what they're trying to get. And if these look somewhat familiar, if you break it down from a writing perspective, it's who, what, when, where, why, and how. And ultimately, do they know about you and do you offer what they need can come from a sales pitch. I mean, you do have to explain what it is you're selling and what problem you're going to solve, and they do need to be aware of it. But trust, like, and advocate are not sales pitches. Trust, like, and advocate come from a genuine belief in your brand, and that comes from storytelling. The digital journey begins there. The digital journey begins with awareness. It becomes interest and awareness. And at the top of this list, this could be a presentation upon itself, as well as many of these other slides could. This is a very deep topic. Interest and awareness covers lots of different ground. Advertising, text, email, loyalty programs, YouTube videos, television, radio, newspaper, magazine, billboard. They're all listed there, and I won't beat them all to death. But interest and awareness comes primarily in this day and age from social media. It comes from a digital presence providing storytelling of who you are and what you're about. Not necessarily just your product and service. I'm not saying never market your product. I'm not saying that you cannot ever put out a sales pitch, but people want to engage specifically with a brand that they like and that they trust. And that comes from you telling your story. Explain to them who you are. Explain to them where you come from, why you do what you do, why you're passionate about what you do. That's what makes social media marketing effective. Not that it's a sales pitch, not just that it's directly targeted. You do need to target the audience correctly, but you need to tell your story. You need to explain what it is behind what you do. As your customer continues down the path, next up is findability. They're aware of you and that you exist, or that your product or your service exists, or they're aware from influencers that what you do is something that they want, even if they don't know about you specifically. So findability, can they find you when they want to find you? Not so much do they have, it could be a postcard, it could be things like that are in front of them. But ultimately, this is Google search. Google makes up 67% of the search market. That number varies a little bit from year to year, but almost more than 2/3 of every search that's done online is done via Google. It's so popular that Google is no longer a brand, it is a verb. How many times have you said in your life, oh, I'm just going to go Google it? 40% of all Google searches are for local, small business products, services, what have you. And that doesn't mean that 60% are for large businesses. The other 60% includes things like, what is Britney Spears doing these days? Or, tell me about George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, historical searches. That's not 40% of business searches. That's 40% of all searches. Are you standing out here? And the important question, the answer is, if someone is going to find you without knowing your name, your business name, or your address or phone number, anything like that, nothing specific about just you, what are they typing in? It used to be a very short form phrase. It used to be very simple. If they were looking for a restaurant, they would type in restaurants. If they were looking for computer services, they might just type in the word computers. That has gone to something longer form. Now we are typing in phrases. You're typing in things that are involving best tacos in Boston or record store near me. And the best and near me are the two most important things to focus on. What is someone typing in to a search engine when they're trying to find a service that you provide? And when you type that in, are you showing up? Because if you're not, you are doing more harm to yourself than you realize. After findability comes reputation. Like I said, a vast majority of people trust online reviews more or as much as a referral from family and friends. So you have to make sure not only that you're managing your reputation online, not only that you're getting good reviews when you get them, you have to make sure you're getting reviews at all. Having no reviews, having no online reputation is as damaging as having a ton of bad reviews. And bad reviews aren't necessarily the end of the world. There are ways to combat them. You simply have to generate more reviews to overcome the score, but responding to your reviews, providing feedback to the feedback. Feedback is a gift. It's something that we should all cherish. And even if you get a bad review, you respond, you may or may not recover that customer or that guest. Ultimately, if the situation is bad enough, they're probably never coming back. But if you respond to the negative review, if you provide them with feedback saying, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, I genuinely apologize, you might recover the next customer or the next guest. You might bring the person back in who hasn't visited you yet. They'll say, hey, you know what? This person had a bad experience, but at least the business took the time to respond and cared about the feedback. That's as much of the battle as it is getting good reviews themselves. Next is the moment of conversion. Now, this is a two-parter, and the second part's the easy part. It's the part of they're buying your product. But it's also the part before it that gets overlooked in a lot of ways. Conversion is not just about the moment of sale, it's about the moment of information. You have built up the awareness, they have found you, they trust you. Now, do you have what I need? And more importantly, how do I give you my money? It's not so much that I want to give you my money, and that happens when I convert. I need to know how to do it. So if your business has the capability of doing online sales or e-commerce, seize that. Even if you have a brick and mortar, if you're not selling online right now, you're missing the boat. It is, especially right now when people have been locked down, you have to have e-commerce at your fingertips. But if you don't, if it's a service that you provide, or if it's something, restaurants, obviously it's easier now than it used to be, but you still need people to come into your front door. How do I make that reservation? How do I get in contact with you? How do I convert and become a customer? That is an important part, and it's primarily going to be driven through your website, although apps and phone calls and other things do factor into it. And finally, once they convert, advocacy. This ties in with reputation. It even ties in with awareness. But ultimately, can you turn your customer, your guest, into a raving fan? Can you turn them into an advocate for your business? Will they go and leave a review for you? More importantly, will they go and create a video review for you? Reviews can be faked. It's a downside of online reviews in restaurants. I've had to deal with it myself over the years. But video reviews carry a powerful message. If you can have a customer or a guest make a video testimonial for how they love your product, and you have the capability of using that in your social marketing, that is the most powerful marketing that you could ever do, because that's not you telling the story. Now you have others telling your story, and that's how you spread your message most effectively. It's a very simple journey. These are very simple, basic items. And when you take them all together as one large picture, awareness, findability, reputation, conversion, advocacy, this can be a powerful tool for your small business. But it's also the greatest source of a mistake. And it's mistake number 3. You can't focus on one piece and think you're doing digital marketing. I've talked with a lot of small business owners, and I always ask them, so what are you doing for your digital marketing? Oh, I post online. I post on social media. Okay, and they stop. Well, I post on Facebook. What else do you do? That you can't just focus on one stage, because ultimately this journey and the shape of it is not a mistake. If you look at it, this journey is a sales funnel. And funnel is kind of an outmoded term. I don't necessarily like it. It's from the 80s. It's not entirely apt, but it is true in this case. If you start at the top of the funnel in building the funnel, you've got this huge gaping hole at the top that things are going to go into, but there's nothing at the bottom to direct that flow. There's nothing at the bottom to direct the traffic to you. And so if you start with, you've got great awareness, you do social media, and even if you do a ton of it, you do it really well, and they can find you, because social media, Facebook's as much a listing source now as it is a social media source. Even if you do those two, we get to reputation, and as they're doing their searching, you got a couple of negative reviews in there, and the next thing you know, they find somebody else who's got a couple of better reviews. What do you think happens? Well, you just sent somebody to the competition, because they took advantage of you starting at the top of your funnel, whereas they built from the inside out. They built the interior. They had reputation and conversion on lockdown, so that when somebody could find them and trust them, they got their business in a heartbeat and could take them the rest of the way through the journey. The good news for you is the reverse is also true. The easiest and fastest way to increase your marketing budget for your small business, use your competitions. use your competitors and build your funnel so that if somebody is doing all the awareness for you, lockdown, you can capture other people's mistakes and you can take them the rest of the way in. It's the easiest way to increase your own budget. Use somebody else's. And the best part about it, it doesn't take a lot of money to use a lot of somebody else's money. Mistake number 4, like we've talked about, build your funnel from the inside out. Don't start at social media. It's where everybody wants to begin. It is the opposite of really where you need to be. Begin with the end in mind, start at the end, and work your way back to the beginning. As you look at that funnel, awareness, findability, reputation, conversion, and advocacy, always 100% of the time, start at conversion. And I say that not because, most of you who are in this room have small businesses that are already started. A few of you may be in the market of beginning a business, but ultimately you're here because you want to start to market a business that already exists. But make sure that your conversion is on lockdown. I tell people this all the time when they come to me and they say, hey, I would love to have some help with digital marketing. And I ask them about their business and they start telling me about their problems. I'm like, that's where you need to begin, because the best marketing in the world cannot overcome bad execution. If you can't get it right, all the marketing is going to do is enhance the fact that you can't get it right. More business executed poorly is more damaging than taking the time to make sure you get it right and do less business, get it correct, and then build from there. So conversion is always number 1. Then begin with findability and reputation. Make sure that your online presence is accurate. There are hundreds of different listing sites and web information disseminators across the internet. There are 4 very, very large ones in addition to Google and Facebook and the major players. But there are tons of places for your information to be right, and there are tons of places for your information to be wrong. Make sure that your information is right as many places as you can get it. And then focus on your online reviews. If you have customers or clients or guests right now and they haven't left you a review, the simple reason is because you haven't asked. Asking people for their feedback, you'll get more feedback. You may not like it, but it's what you need at the time. So get more reviews, improve your online reputation. Then after conversion, focus on your advocacy. How are you going to turn your current clients and customers and guests into raving fans? What are you going to do to have them promote your business for you? Because their message will be more powerful than anything that you could ever put out in the awareness piece. After you get those, then move back to awareness. Then pump up your social media, pump up your paid advertising, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn or Google or YouTube, whatever you're using as a channel to spread the word and spread your story. Pump it up as hard as you can after you have set the rest of your funnel in place. Conversion, followed by presence, followed by awareness. Have someone look at this for you. Like I said, feedback is a gift. And sometimes we can be biased looking at our own performance. We're going to think that we're doing better than we actually are. We could also think that we're doing worse than we actually are. In personal terms, this would be like doing a 360 self-assessment. The idea of having a bunch of people give me feedback on the way that I'm performing. Do the same thing with your business. Find somebody. It doesn't have to be me, although I would be happy to help anybody here, but find someone who can help you look at your digital process and see if it really is effective for your business. And if it's not, help you do it. Be wary of anybody who says that they can do it for you, because ultimately this is storytelling. This is something that you have to do from you. It has to come from your heart. And that's not something that somebody can do for you. They can do it with you. There are a lot of great companies out there, hopefully you would think mine included, that can help you tell your story. But ultimately, it's about you. So find someone to help you tell your story after you've gotten a grip on exactly where it is that you stand. So 4 mistakes to avoid, but let's look at them on the positive side. The 4 ways to actually do this. Embrace your digital marketing on the customer's terms. Provide the information in a way that they can access what they want, when they want it, where they want it. Not on your terms, not a sales pitch that you deliver, information that they can find. Tell your story, not a sales pitch. Make it genuine and share why you are passionate about what you do. Consider the whole journey and not just a piece. Being great at social media is not digital marketing. Being great at social media is being great at social media. It won't take you any further than that. It is crucial that you win every stage. And finally, build from the inside out. Start with conversion, move to findability, reputation, advocacy, and then awareness. Doing them in that order will ensure that once you start pumping the funnel with your awareness piece, then you'll have the opportunity to capture that flow. Otherwise, there are possible holes that will let people get away from you without you ever knowing it. And so that's the digital journey. It's very basic, but it is also very powerful and very profound. It is quite possibly the most important thing that you can do right now for your business, especially given the fact that a lot of people are on lockdown and they can't come to you in person. They absolutely have to find you online, just as we're doing right here. So we do have some questions, and I know that the team here at Small Business Expo have been moving some of these over for me. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. We did have a question here. Will the slides and handout be available at some time? Absolutely. As has been mentioned, this entire presentation is being recorded. So obviously this whole thing, if you missed some notes or if you want some more information or if you just can't get enough of this lovely face, you'll be able to see it again sometime soon. In addition to that, I will be sure to get all of the slides out to everyone who's here. I will get a report of everybody who attended the webinar today, and I will make sure to email that out to you as well. Question here from Sharon. You say people consume content on their terms and start on a mobile device. Is that true across all age categories and all position levels? Yes and no. There will be differences demographically as far as the best channel to reach your ultimate customer. But it's not necessarily as different as you think. A lot of people think that email is dead or dying. I think that's quite far from the truth. The fastest growing segment of the population when it comes to email marketing, believe it or not, are the greatest generation and baby boomers. We're talking about people who are 60 and up, and that's because the only way that they can communicate with their kids and their grandkids now is via the web. It's via email. So the other thing that's driving email marketing is the dominance of e-commerce. And so this is actually, in the United States, kids can have email addresses on their own legally beginning at the age of 13. And so if they want to create an Amazon account or any kind of e-commerce purchasing account, what do they have to have? An email address. So email is complicated because your open rates and your click-through rates are going to be low, but that is a growing way to reach older generations. As far as social media goes, the platform is going to be very generation specific. If you are trying to reach baby boomers and Generation X, Facebook is the place to be because that's where old people go. If you want to try to reach teenagers, TikTok, Snapchat, things like that are going to be for younger generation. Twitter is going to have its use for instantaneous messaging. The channel is going to be specific as far as reaching different generations, but the overall message of reaching people digitally applies across all demographics. It really doesn't matter with regard to age. There'll be a transcript of this presentation. Again, there will be some recordings and whatnot. Heather R., great presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Michael H. asked a question. I'm going to explain. It's actually a very good one. Does your Honing Steel company name have experience with very specific niche markets? my background for just shy of 20 years was in the restaurant and hospitality trade. I worked my way up through the ranks as an operator of restaurants for corporate, franchise, independent ownership, you name it, and all the way from a server and a host up to director of operations for multi-unit. My background is in hospitality, but what led me here, because you're probably wondering, why is this the guy who's doing digital marketing then? When I was running restaurants, I was in your shoes. I was a small business operator. Even though I may or may not have owned it, I ran it as though I did. It was my business. And so I ran it like an owner, which came with all of the requisite requirements of you're in charge of inventory and labor and scheduling and budgeting, profit and loss statements, repairs, maintenance, capital expenditures, marketing. That all fell on my shoulders for most of the companies that I worked with. And the marketing piece was interesting to me because I had a background in journalism and public relations. It's what I studied in college. And I combined that with my love of hospitality. And I came up with the concept of digital hospitality. Ultimately, the digital journey, as we talk about digital storytelling, it's all about hospitality. It's all about that emotional response that we try to elicit from our customer and our guest. And so the two went hand in hand. And when I came up with the name for my company, Honing Steel, a honing steel is the rod of steel that you have in the knife block in your house. And most people call it a knife sharpener. That's not what it is, and it's not what it does. It doesn't sharpen your knife. A honing steel hones the edge, or as you use a knife, its edge bends. And so a honing steel realigns the edge or renews the edge. And I knew my passion was helping small businesses to improve their business. And so I took the idea of renewing a knife edge and took it the next step further. My passion is renewing the small business edge. And so that's where Honing Steel comes from. Which of the steps in the digital journey does my company, are we most able to assist with? The short answer is all of them, but everybody's going to say that. My personal strength is when it comes to reputation management, listings management, though through my digital agency, we're able to handle everything from awareness through advocacy. I have products that will cover the whole gamut. But for this webinar's purpose, since this is educational, I'm not necessarily going to turn it into a sales pitch right now. Please do visit my booth today or tomorrow, or reach out to me. I'd be happy to discuss it further because I really do customize what I do for every individual client. Not everybody needs everything, and no business needs the exact same thing as somebody else. When you say online presence, is that your website or a social media format? Both, and at the same time, neither, because the one that you're leaving out is the search engine. The idea of Google and being able to find information, search for it. The great frontier right now when it comes to search is voice search. Most of us in our homes these days have some device, probably our smartphone, but it could be a smart speaker, a smart TV. There's something in there with somebody's names or what drive that. So websites that have your information statically listed so that it can be searched. They also could have other purposes. Yelp is a review site, but it's also a listing source. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, these are all social media sites, but they're also a listing source. Google's a search engine, but Google also has a reputation side to it because you can do reviews on Google. It also has a listings section because they have Google Maps. It also has a social media aspect to it. Google Plus went away, but they're bringing something back called Google Posts, where businesses are going to post information through Google My Business to provide a social feedback. So online presence is really all of it combined. And the listings part is the one that most people overlook, but it's what's going to drive the engine to make sure that your information is there. Yvette says, would you have advice in conversion of a mobile store impulse buy on travel to an online store? I would probably have to talk to you about that one more specifically because I need to know what you're saying. The short answer is if you're having issues when it comes to how to implement a digital solution, the best advice I can give you, and this is not just saying come to me, find a digital expert. That's why I have a digital agency behind me that can do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to social media and paid advertising and all of the specific solutions, because I know about a lot about all of them, but I'm not an expert at any single one necessarily, with the possible exception of reviews. Find someone to help you. You are great at running your businesses. Be great at running your businesses. That's why you're in business. You have a passion for what you do. You don't necessarily have a passion for bookkeeping or legal stuff, unless you're a CPA firm or a law firm, obviously. You don't necessarily have a passion for all of the digital journey. You may be passionate about parts of it, but find people who can help you do these things so you have more time to run your business. It will make you happier in the long run. Trust me, I tried to do it myself for a long time, and I am much happier now that I have experts in certain fields that do things for me. Ask my attorney, she'll tell you for sure. What do you think is texting as a channel for various age groups? I think it's fantastic depending on its application. Also, just like your diet, everything in moderation. I have certain brands that have texted me ad nauseum, like endlessly. I've had people who use it very effectively, and I've bought things from it. So it really kind of depends on how you're going to use it. What email service that you can get that doesn't have emails that end up in spam? Is there a service, or is it legal to send emails to people who haven't opted in? That is a very long question. I'm going to answer it briefly in about 20 seconds. It is legal to email them. You should use a service. There are ones represented here. Personally, I offer Constant Contact. I have a relationship through them, but it is better. You do need to have them opted in. You cannot spam them, especially if you're doing anything involving Europe. The privacy laws there are I'm not going to say out of control, but they are much more strict than here in the US. And in the US, it's going to vary state to state. So I would get a service, whether it be MailChimp or Constant Contact, and use that. What are the legal considerations for using testimonials, especially with public figures? The basic answer, get a release. And there are services out there that can help you gather the release for use with the video. Just have them sign the release and you're good to go. Talk to your attorney as well. That always helps. You see here, I'm going to do one more question, and then we'll wrap up a little bit, but I still want to answer some more. Do you have any pointers on how to leverage your retail competitors' online marketing to your advantage? It really comes down to, like I said, building from the inside out. Make sure that your conversion pieces are solid. Make sure that your listings and your reputation are solid. And that's where things like search engine optimization can be very powerful, because if your website ranks highly, yes, your competitor may have a referral that brings them to their social media, or maybe their awareness that gets them into the game. But depending on what it is that people are purchasing, they're still going to shop around. That's where, if you're ranking higher than they are, or if your reputation is stronger than they are, you can immediately take their awareness and turn it to your advantage. If you're able to leverage that, not necessarily against them, but it's really just being in the right place at the right time, that's where you're going to be able to make the greatest impact on your own digital marketing. There are other questions. I apologize if I haven't gotten to all of them, but like I said, we are going to be publishing all of this here in the recording. Two quick things. First of all, if you are looking for where you might be in your own personal small business, definitely go to my website, honingsteel.com. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, there's going to be this box that says, get your free business online snapshot report. What that will do is just punch in a little bit of information, First of all, it'll put you in touch with me, but it will also generate a report of where you are on all the things that I talked about today. It's a great free tool just to identify where your issues may lay and where your opportunities are to improve. But finally, and most importantly, definitely come visit me at my booth here at the Small Business Expo. I'll be here at various points for the rest of the afternoon and then all day tomorrow. I would love to be able to talk to you more then. Without further ado, though, thank you so much for your time and attention. It's been wonderful. My contact information is on the screen. I'd love to talk to everybody more. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew, for the presentation. We all really enjoyed. Again, I would like to thank AT&T Business for being our presenting sponsor today. This webinar recording will be available within 24 hours, and you all will get an email notification when it's available. It will be available on smallbusinessuniversity.online. Thank you all again for joining, and stay safe.